All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
It's going off, everybody. Yeah, you know it. It's our Friday show. I'm here. I am so ready. I'll be perfectly honest. I wanted to start the show an hour ago. I was so ready to go. But I'm glad I didn't because I read some extra stuff. I don't think I quite said the S word. Close.
It was close.
But,
is there a little vodka in that coffee cup? What's going on this morning?
Kim is here.
Kim, how are you?
Got my Coachella Valley coffee. Kathleen Bryant, already aware of the fact that we've been demonetized because we're talking about the war and a whole bunch of other stuff that gets you demonetized. And she's hit us with 20. Come on.
Big shout out.
Big shout out to Kathleen right out of the chute. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And Wes is with us every day. Big shout out. I didn't intend to start the show with so much in the way of generosity, but thank you to our audience who keep contributing to keep us on the air, which is really cool. Albert's here today, too, everyone.
Albert, thank you.
We have a great Florida segment coming up bottom of the hour, so I'm excited about all things Friday. That includes Florida. It includes Avila and Shure in the second hour. And it includes Michael Snyder, the culture blaster, on what to watch, what movies, what streaming things, everything there is to see. Last night, I watched, what did I do, Kamish, last night?
Did you watch some Thursday Night Football?
Albert, thank you.
Of course, Thursday Night Football, exactly. That's why I asked you.
You're a true American.
Exactly. There are really two very American things. One is watching the NFL. And Ron, nice to see you in the chat, Ron Cook, Phineas. Watching the NFL is the most American thing. And the other thing is to send thoughts and prayers about mass shootings, because that's what we do in this country. Yeah, sadly, that is America, the United States of guns. And so the faster the weapon, the bigger the weapon, the tougher the weapon, the more machismo the weapon. This is the place for you, America. Unique in all the world, as it's been said many times. And I have, put a pin in that. I'll double back to it. I have some negative comments directed to me.
Oh, that's
which is
What?
I know. I'm surprised as well. I mean, no one's perfect, but I'm as close to perfect as a host as you can find.
Do you know who I am?
Thank you.
You're kind of a big deal.
I've done a lot of stuff. I've been in a lot of situations. I'm just saying, not tooting my own horn.
Was it hard to find headphones that would fit on the head? Is that?
I'm just saying,
Were
there's
you able
a lot
to?
of
Did you have to go to a
talent in
special
this.
place?
I'm kind of a big deal.
You had to go to the extra big head host store.
Well,
Get
when the
those
staff
headphones?
claps back at me like this, it is
Kim, how are you?
not a pretty thing. But I read and embrace the criticism.
Yeah.
And so I will get back to the gunman who continues on the loose. I'll talk about Gaza. I'll talk about the new entrant into the Democratic presidential sweepstakes. That is right. Yes, Joe Biden is being taken on by a Democrat.
What?
It's
Sacrilege.
I think that's the way the country should be. You know, anyone who wants to challenge the leadership should be able to. But there is, as we talked before, there's an institutional machine both on the Republican side and the Democratic side. And you saw it against Bernie Sanders, I think, and you saw it in a big, big way in 2016. But more to the point, on the same point, this guy will get steamrolled, but we'll talk about who this guy is and might he, again, open the door for others. So, but now, can I, Albert, read a couple of criticisms of yours truly before we get started? I like to be
The Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah, here's a. Let me put my credibility glasses on for a moment.
Is this one of those "I love your show," but type of things?
No, not even an "I love your show," but this is from Mr. Grinch 14.
Good name.
In the YouTube comments. Remember, I tell you, I read the comments after the show. This is an after-hours trading. Mark, please stop, in capital letters, interrupting.
Why are you yelling?
I wish you could see this. There are about 80 exclamation points after interrupting. Mark, please stop interrupting with 80 exclamation points. And then, well, there goes 30 seconds of my life wasted.
What were you interrupting?
Good day, sir.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. And that's the point.
You're not a
I don't
serial
know.
interrupter. There are some talk show hosts where their guests can't get a word in edgewise because they'll ask a question, the guest speaks for 2 seconds, and then the host jumps in and tries to answer it. You're not that guy.
This is, Kim is right, if I can speak in my own defense, and thank you for speaking in my defense a bit, Kim. Here's the thing on me. I don't interrupt. I actually lay out sometimes too much, but I lay out for the guest to speak, especially with the guests we have. I mean, they're very right. Now, if somebody says something in an answer that I feel needs a quick explanation or a quick follow-up, then I will interrupt. But generally speaking, I lay out. Now, here's the bust on me. If you wanted to have a bust, it's the questions can be too long, okay? Like I can, because sometimes in my setup, I'm so anxious to kind of set the scene that I think I go on too long.
What can you tell us about the scene?
A lot. I can tell you a lot about the scene, and sometimes I can tell you too much about the scene. So that I think, but there's not as much of that on this show. On my podcast, I used to literally cut down my questions. But in a conversation, oftentimes, and that's what these are, these conversations we have are just that. They're conversations. And in a conversation, it's not just quick questions and an answer. It's a real conversation. So, so I would say this to you. What is it, Mr. Grinch? Yeah, Mr. Grinch 14.
You're a mean one.
Yeah, you're a mean one. I'll take that note because I take all notes, but I don't think I'm much of an interrupter, honestly.
I don't think so either. I mean, I could make other comments, but that's not one of them.
Wait a minute.
What?
Well, wait a minute. Let's hear that. What are the other comments, Kim?
I'm just giving you a hard time. I have no complaints here at the Mark Thompson Show.
Well,
it's Happyville.
Okay. Sounds like there's some sarcasm. Hey, look, I'll tell you. Here's my vow to the audience. And this is typically true. We live pretty out loud. So if there is trouble in paradise for us, I promise I'll share it with you on the air. So if Kim gets disheartened or Albert can't take it anymore or whatever, I'll tell you. I'll say, hey, Albert couldn't take it anymore and he's come back to, or Kim just couldn't do it. She's got 2 kids, a husband. She just couldn't do it. I'll tell you. Or if I go, you know what, man, loved it, but can't stay with it, I'll tell you just like that. I promise you'll be unvarnished.
Yeah.
Julie, you ask open-ended questions and give a lot of valuable insights, MT. My humble opinion. Thank you, Julie.
Yeah.
Anyway.
The only time I've really heard you interrupt is if someone's spinning their wheels, or they can't think of the right phrasing that they want. You'll jump in and try to help them with that, but that's not really interrupting.
So here is the other criticism that I got from Sarah. Hang on. Sarah Noel Mary. This came in 21 hours ago to the Mark Thompson Network. We understand and accept it's the warm water that affects the hurricane, Mark. Just like we understand clouds produce rain. Why are you yelling at us about it? Geez, we get it, Mark. We are actually pretty intelligent. Let's take it to the next level and as a community, come up with practical solutions.
Why are you yelling?
Sarah, if I can respond. What happened with the most recent hurricane, and I remember what I was saying, is completely unprecedented in recorded history. It went from being a tropical storm to a Category 5 hurricane. Not barely a hurricane at Cat 1, Category 5. It went to the top category of hurricane ferocity from being a tropical storm in less than a day. That is unprecedented. And that's why I was providing the explanation about the heat energy. You say, we understand and accept it's the warm water that affects the hurricane. But what I was trying to say is that the water is so warm that that energy transfer supercharges the tropical weather system.
And this is a new development, right? Not to interrupt.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying it's in recorded history. It's never happened. So the other thing I was noting, and then we will move on, Sarah Noel Mary, who was taking me to task, is, and by the way, again, you can tell they're legit things you could take me to task on. I'm happy to engage. But Sarah Noel Mary, what I would say to you is, I didn't know before I started studying meteorology many years ago that the largest energy transfer in the hemisphere is tropical weather. That's the biggest way that the Earth transfers energy. So that's the only note I was making. But I think the unprecedented nature of what we saw in Mexico with this most recent hurricane is worth, getting excited about, meaning, agitated about, or hey, we got to pay attention to this. But your point about let's take it to the next level and as a community come up with practical solutions, great. That's not what we were in that moment doing, but I take your point. Anyway, thank you very much. I appreciated those two comments. And again, they came in after hours commenting. So feel free to hit us after hours on the Mark Thompson Show comment section. And we review it, and we may share your criticism or your compliment. I don't share as many compliments because, they seem self-serving. Not that I would.
Do you know who I am? I'm kind of a big deal.
I'll handle the self-serving on this show. All right. Great to have everyone here. Let's start with a couple of...
The Mark Thompson Show.
Before I get into the nastiness of Gaza, tell me what's happening with this gunman. He's still on the loose. They think he might have actually taken a boat to get away from the scene and to kind of, I think he's offed himself. I mean, that was my guess, but maybe not.
A Newsweek article that quotes a report by ABC News, and they say there's the presence of a possible suicide note, that police told ABC News that there was a note reportedly found in Card's home. Now, whether that means he has taken his life or not, we don't know. There's still a big search for him. So at this point, he's still considered armed and dangerous. And they've got multiple federal agencies. They've got the FBI, U.S. Marshals, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. I mean, everybody's out looking for this person.
Yeah. This horror show that he put on in Maine, worthy of this kind of lockdown and manhunt. Mm-hmm. They've even, I think, reduced the water flow into this river because it's controlled by the power company on some level. I believe this is right. And so that's to aid those who are divers who are dredging just in case, because they found his car near the river. And so they're looking for what might be a body in there. Anyway, the whole scene is twisted and awful. Albert, you got a setup piece you want us to see?
Nothing with any further updates. There was nothing good. So
okay, just nothing on that. Yeah. That's the story in Maine. Meantime, in the Middle East, the prospects for hostage release, I think, continue dim, and the situation in Gaza, the humanitarian crisis that's unfolded, the diplomatic crisis that continues to unfold, and the logjam that is Middle East negotiations, that continues as well. Here's a piece on that.
Israel carried out another incursion into the Gaza Strip with a column of tanks pushing in for the second night in a row, this time in a new part of Gaza, further east, with drones and jets firing on what Israel says were Hamas command sites. Israel's defense minister vows a full-scale invasion will come when the time is right, while airstrikes and limited incursions prepare the ground. Gaza is being leveled. One leading Israeli newspaper this morning describing the amount of force being used makes hell sound pleasant. The health ministry in Gaza, run by Hamas, says more than 7,000 Palestinians have been killed so far. Our crew in southern Gaza witnessed an Israeli airstrike and rushed toward it. A boy is rescued from the rubble, but a girl remains trapped. She's eventually freed, and our cameraman caught up with her in an ambulance. She's dazed. At a hospital, she's treated on the floor, given air, and comes around as she's cleaned. She says her name is Miral and asks if her father is alive. The medic tells her he's fine, but doesn't know. The Israeli military says it's preparing to fight Hamas in the militants' network of tunnels under the Gaza Strip. It's a dangerous and complicated mission, especially since that's where freed hostages say they were kept. Israel increasing its estimate of the hostages in Gaza this morning to 229. The Israeli public is increasingly divided over the full offensive. A poll this morning saying 49% of Israelis saying Israel should wait. In Tel Aviv, families of hostages are growing frustrated, saying they're being forgotten in the push to expand the war.
Before the army getting inside Gaza, there is much more important thing to bring them back.
A small amount of aid did get into the Gaza Strip this morning, but no fuel, which is needed to power generators at hospitals. Israel says the fuel could go to Hamas. Hold on.
All right, Richard.
Richard Engel's probably, I don't know, there is some good reporting out of that world, but Richard Engel really is strong.
It's really hard to watch, though, with those children trapped under rubble. That's awful.
This whole situation is terrible, and we pivoted from the horror of the terrorist attack to this quickly, and that's frustrated a lot of people. And then we've pivoted from this to blaming all Jews on earth for this even more quickly. The college campuses are beset by these protests. Albert, do you have that video? It's so chilling of the march in on a college campus calling for death to the Jews. I mean, this is insanity. This really is you realize the level of hate that is beneath the surface. The hate built on resentment or whatever. And then, of course, we shared with you several days ago the story about the guy who killed that Palestinian boy and tried to kill his mother. I mean, it's just I feel as though this situation, tragic and horrifying, has become sort of a proxy for resentment and the kind of anti-Semitism that you find harbored in a lot of places that you wouldn't think should harbor such things. You know, I give college campuses credit maybe for being enlightened environments, but you realize that's just not the case always. Anyway, I sent this stuff to Albert, but maybe he doesn't have it.
You can't do that, though, can you, without being arrested? Can you call for death to people?
I don't think there are any arrests made on the campus.
I mean, that's kind of hate speech, isn't it? Not kind of, it is.
Albert, did I send that to you or not? I thought.
No, I'm looking for it. I don't have that one.
I was reading that in Florida, they're trying to limit the speech. They are going to disband the pro-Palestinian student groups at some state colleges that are in Florida. Well, I don't know how I feel about that. Whether, I mean, I guess you're all in with free speech. Either you're down with people calling for, death to all, or you disband the groups and you don't want to allow any of it. I don't know.
Well, a pro-Palestinian group, I don't think it should be shut down. I mean, I don't support that at all. But a group that is calling for the death of the Jews, yeah, right. I'd shut that down. I mean, I think you cannot on a college campus tolerate meetings that call for violence and death against another religion or ethnicity. It's unacceptable, and it should be a very short meeting, okay? That should not be something that takes a long time to decide upon.
And now you have these very big business people looking at these student groups and the protesters and calling for all of their names. They want the university to give names so that these people won't be hired in the future. It doesn't matter about their Yale education. If they came out and were against whomever, whichever, they don't want to have anything to do with them. So, and I don't know if your opinion on this matter should preclude you from employment.
Yeah, I mean, this is a really interesting question that I'd love to talk about when we have more time another day. And that is not only just about this, but your social media legacy. Should it be used in evaluating who you are and how good an employee you would be? So it's not just, your position in the Middle East or but the degree to which you weigh in different ways. I mean, are you a Trump supporter? Would that be enough in some firms to go, oh my God, it's Trump? My view is, I don't know. Individually, I find, I've got friends who are Trump supporters, and, everybody's in it for different reasons, I know people who like the GOP because of tax cuts, that's their whole thing. I know people who support the GOP because they feel they're better on Israel. I know people who won't support the GOP because of Israel, or they won't support the GOP for any number. So you see how these, everybody goes to their respective corners on any number of things. I mean, I'm a tree hugger. I'm kind of a one issue. I find everything else falls into place with most tree huggers. But having said that, I think, the question of what you post in social media, what you advertise, and how it has an effect on your career, it's a legit question. When is it not legitimate to drop the hammer on somebody because they tweeted something, Instagram posted something, or whatever? I think if you called for violence and death against something, you should be DQ'd. You're done, disqualified. Yeah. Anyway, look, this is awful. I don't support this shutting down of water and, these critical, there are people who depend on basic needs being met in Gaza who are not getting those needs met because of the cutoff of water, of electricity, and of fuel. It's a very tough spot. And I think you've got to get those hostages back. And I'm surprised, and then also not surprised, that Hamas hasn't leaned in more to suggest they will release the hostages if water, fuel, etc. can be restored. They've talked about the fact that if there is a cessation of bombing and of military incursion, they'll release more hostages. But you understand the most recent 2 hostages that were released, not a result of Israeli negotiation. I think they came through Qatar. So, because the Qataris have a relationship with Hamas. Mm-hmm. That's another area that could be exploited, meaning you could lean on the Qataris to lean on Hamas more. The whole thing is really super disturbing. So,
The Mark Thompson Show.
Florida's coming up, Friday Fabulous Florida, and I did want to mention, I am reluctantly, I don't want to do this, going on a cruise. I don't want to go away for as long as Courtney wants to go away. She wants to go away for 2 weeks. I don't want to. She's even saying, well, after we get off, maybe we can take a week and we can go. Dude, after we get off, I'm coming home. I don't even want to go to begin with. But then
you sound like a fun travel partner. That sounds
great.
I'm
sorry. I'm tired, and I'd rather, enjoy our crew every day than get on a cruise ship. But I'm sure it'll be good. She really wants it. We haven't gone away since COVID started, really, and that's what she's saying. So I just found this though this morning. Cruise line found at fault for hundreds getting COVID.
What?
Yeah. Mark, they're not on the Lido deck the way we are. Well, maybe, but the coronavirus is already devastating parts of the world, bringing illness and death, and the future was uncertain when Henry Karpick, a retired police officer from the Australian suburb of Fig Tree, and his wife of nearly 50 years began their holiday to New Zealand aboard the Ruby Princess. What could possibly go wrong? Well, it was March of 2020. About a week earlier, a passenger on another cruise ship, the Diamond Princess, had become the first Australian to die of COVID. A few days later, after the Ruby Princess left Sydney, Mr. Carpet began to feel tired, weak, achy. And then his wife saw that her husband was shaking, barely able to walk or carry his luggage. 72 years old is what he was at the time. Nearly 2 months in the hospital. He was placed on a ventilator, put into an induced coma, and at one point given only a few days to live. So have a great, great cruise, everybody.
Sayonara, sucker.
Exactly. Should be really fun. He is the lead plaintiff in a class action lawsuit against the cruise company Carnival, which chartered the Ruby Princess, also contracted COVID-19 through her symptoms is his wife, although her symptoms were milder. An Australian court found that Carnival and a subsidiary, Princess Cruise Lines, were negligent and had breached their duty of care in their handling of a coronavirus outbreak aboard the ship in the early days of the pandemic.
Good day, sir.
That's right. No, they found guilty. 2,670 passengers and crew members were aboard the Ruby Princess, Kim. 600 people on board contracted the coronavirus. 28 died, according to court records.
I just remember that cruise ship docked off of San Francisco at the
me too.
height of COVID. It's like, I don't know if I want to get on a cruise ship, but you guys have a great time.
No, exactly. I mean, thank you. I don't want it for 14 days.
Yeah.
Floating
I saw
Petri
on my
dishes.
commute home. Every day I drive home, I see them on in the bay.
Mm-hmm.
John says cruises are floating Petri dishes.
Yeah, wear a mask.
Oh, my God.
Take a big box of masks.
No. Who said no?
No.
Amy said no. I know.
I'm sure if
Blame
you drink enough tequila, Mark, I think that could combat anything that comes.
Blame Courtney after you catch COVID. Great. Oh, my God. Well, we'll see. It's not until next month, but man, it's coming up quickly. I mean, actually coming up, I guess, early December. Now, that's the other thing. I said to Kim, I think I mentioned this the other day. Are you okay? You want to do that? I mean, go on for 2 weeks and do the show for 2 weeks? I can get you in a co-host. I can get you
3 weeks, right? I have to do it for 3 weeks.
Yeah, I think it is 3 weeks, actually. Yeah, because of the travel time and everything. So she's basically your host for December. So, jump on her.
Hi.
Like you do me. You can gamble, lay out. Well, wait a minute. Julie's got it. You can gamble, lay out, dance all night long. It does sound great.
Awesome.
Wow.
I like the way Julie's got a positive spin. This is
good.
There's never been anything like this.
Yeah, I think it could be good. Julie's got me in the right head. Why can't the rest of you help prop me up? You can see my psychology is fragile. Smash the like button like a boss. We'll get
iron rod.
Kim's news, and then the great John Daly joins us for Friday Fabulous Florida. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report is sponsored by Tenuta Vineyards. Yay! We love Tenuta Vineyards.
Woohoo!
Woo! First, let's talk about what's happening here. This is Maine. You can see Lewiston right there. Police there working more than 500 tips and leads as the manhunt continues for Robert Card. This 40-year-old Army reservist is accused of killing 18 people and wounding more than a dozen others when he opened fire at two places, one a bowling alley, the other a bar in Lewiston, Maine on Wednesday. The shelter-in-place order remains in effect as divers search a nearby river today. So that's what's going on in Maine. Still underway, the search. New explosions are reported in Gaza after Israeli forces carried out another ground raid against Hamas. A picture of that. Israel said it used troops, fighter jets, drones, and armored vehicles to soften Hamas targets. This comes as anticipation grows for a larger ground invasion into the Hamas-controlled territory. Meanwhile, Israeli officials say Florida did indeed have a role in sending weapons to Israel. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis said the state worked with the Israeli consul general to help ship weapons and ammunitions to Israel through private parties. Yeah, the consul general initially said his office did not work with the governor, but then clarified that indeed it had. DeSantis has already sent cargo planes with healthcare supplies to Israel and worked to get Americans home from that war-torn region. House Speaker Mike Johnson rejecting calls for tougher gun laws following that shooting in Maine. The interview with Fox News that Johnson gave is where he said guns are not the problem, and now is not the time to discuss gun control laws.
Yeah, right. No, it's never
Guns
the
are
time.
not the problem.
Yeah.
Guns are not the problem. People are the problem. He said the problem lies in the human heart, adding the House should focus on tackling mental health issues.
He's a holy roller, and I got nothing against, as usual, the religious crew, but I don't like it legislated, and I don't like it to inform practical issues. Let's keep whatever you want to pray, whatever you can surround. But he is a true believer that way. This guy came, from worst to first. He was this Louisiana congressman. All of a sudden, he's the only kid who can get the votes, and he caught a worn-down moderate crew at the GOP. We'll talk more about this with Avila and Shure. But a lot of his stuff is informed by these backwoods views of what should happen in society and what's right and wrong.
If he's saying the problem lies in the human heart, well, if that human heart was not able to get an AK-47, then the problem is the human heart needs help, but it doesn't hurt other people. Guns
I mean, he would say, but it's my right, and it's one of my fundamental rights as an American to be able to purchase. I mean, it's an absurdist argument, so I don't even.
I could argue that it's one of my fundamental rights as an American not to be shot at. Wouldn't
to
that
live
be
safely,
something?
of course. Yeah, you're right.
I mean, I don't know. It's a wild idea, but maybe it'll work. I don't know. Let's talk about Ivanka. You mentioned her earlier. And Ivanka, she's trying to get out of having to testify. Let me go back to.
I think the court has said now she's going to have to, right?
Yeah, she's being ordered now to testify in the former president's New York civil fraud trial. Ivanka Trump's legal team had asked the court to throw out subpoenas for her testimony because she'd been dismissed as a defendant in the case. Doesn't mean she doesn't have to go take the stand. Former President Trump, of course, is being sued for allegedly inflating his assets in financial statements.
Yeah, and so she is going to be, even though what she tried to do, Ivanka, is claim she was a White House employee. But they're saying, hey, you were with the Trump organization before you were a White House employee, even if we grant that you were a White House employee. And so you have testimony that could pertain to all of this, so you must participate.
You must come on in, tell us what you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I get not wanting to testify against your own father in these cases, but I don't know. We got to go get it done.
I understand. Yeah. Nobody wants to testify to begin with in anything.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a pain, and when you've got your dad on the others, of course. Yeah. I mean, I understand why she doesn't want to, but you do have information that pertains to this, so you will testify. The judge has said you will testify.
Speaking of Donald Trump, he wants to reveal classified information when he goes on trial for allegedly trying to steal the 2020 presidential election. Trump wants to introduce classified information in the federal case about how foreign governments tried to influence the election and his efforts to allegedly stop it. Legal arguments over including that classified material could add months of delays to this case.
Saudi Arabia pays cash.
Yeah. Now we understand why.
If anybody's mobbed up with the foreign governments, Mr. Former President, it's you.
Don't talk to me that way.
Just saying.
Finding novel ways to increase the amount of time this all takes, right?
Right. Thank you. It's just to kick the can down the right.
In New York, the mayor, Eric Adams, is offering migrants one-way plane tickets out of town. Democrats Mayor Eric Adams says he's offering the tickets to anywhere in the world as the migrant crisis grows. Adams says his city is running out of room and the shelters, they're all full. Mayor Adams ripped Republican governors for sending migrants to his state in the first place. If you are a PG&E customer, you're paying about twice the national average for your energy. We kind of knew it, but yeah, it's nice to know for sure. The Public Advocate's Office at the California Public Utilities Commission released data yesterday showing rates went up 92% from 2014 to 2023. 92%. PG&E now asking for even higher rates to pay for things like wildfire mitigation, transmission and distribution investments, and rooftop solar incentives. Many customers say they're in favor of those things, but they don't know how they're going to bear the cost increases with inflation making so many things cost so more, and PG&E rates already at the top of the stack. So, man. Since the pandemic,
you're
go ahead.
Not too much positive to say about PG&E.
Since the pandemic, the number of men taking family leave to bond with their babies has completely surged. EDD data, Employment Development Department data, shows that men filed 44% of claims last year. That's up 12% from 10 years ago, up 10% from 2020. The number of women taking state leave was relatively unchanged. Experts say more employers are normalizing men taking leave during the pandemic. Research shows when fathers take leave, mothers have better health outcomes with fewer hospitalizations and better mental health as well. Advocates continue to push for federal paid family leave. And lastly, music superstar Taylor Swift is joining a very exclusive club. According to the latest Bloomberg Billionaire Index, Swift's net worth now tops $1.1 billion. So she's the newest billionaire. Wait, what?
That's the billionaire's blessing?
What? Is that what that is?
Okay, right.
Thanks to her record-breaking Eras tour, the pop icon is one of the few performers to achieve billionaire status on music and performance alone.
Wow.
I did everything right and they indicted me.
No.
There's never been anything like this.
That's the one. There's never been anything like it. She's a billionaire. It's the first
He is
one.
a billionaire.
Yeah.
This report sponsored by Tenuta Vineyards in Livermore.
I love them. I love them.
I do too.
Tell me about the deal. They've got a whole... What can you tell us about the scene?
What can you tell us about the scene?
Yeah.
I can tell you at the scene, they're doing the I Love Lucy grape stomps, and they may still have room in their November grape stomps. It's a catered luncheon, and it's a really fun event. So you can check that out. You get, by the way, 10% off of that just for being an exclusive Mark Thompson Show listener. When you get there, or even if you don't go and you just want to order some wine, go ahead, check it out. You can call Rich at 925-699-4576. If you tell him smash it with your iron rod, you get your 10% off. And off you go into the vineyards, tasting your wine, your Why Are You Yelling Red, and having a gay old time.
Right.
Off you go into the vineyards.
Oh, my God. Yes, off you go into the vineyards.
As the sun sets.
Into the magic of the Livermore Valley.
Don't forget to take your wine with you. I'm Kim McAllister. This is the Mark Thompson Show.
They had to close down an entire radio station to silence him. And now, he's here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Thompson. Feel it in your soul. The Mark Thompson Show.
Oh, that's funky.
Who's Mark Thompson?
Hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson?
Let me kick down the door and talk to my two sons and daughters.
100% effective. How about that?
I come from regular stock.
There is no defense for my conduct.
This thing is ready to pop, people.
Joe Fish, Sal the Shoemaker, Joe Box, and Little Anthony.
Mo Black's brother, Fat Andy.
Smash it with your iron rod.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Well, we're excited. Fridays bring him to us. How about it for the great John Daly, everyone? Yeah.
Hey, Mark, please stop interrupting.
John. It's the oddest note. Yeah.
It does say the Mark Thompson Show on the top right.
Yeah, I know. People seem to lose track of that, John Daly. John Daly and I took most people know this because I mentioned before, but we took a driverless car ride in a cab in the city of San Francisco. This is a few months ago. You can find the short on it on our channel. But more to the point, and the reason I mention it is I saw a Kim that, is it Cruise that has discontinued, right, John?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
You and the cruises. Always going on a cruise.
They dragged a lady in one. What happened, John?
I mean, come on, Mark. They just rolled on top of a lady and then stayed there.
They didn't drag. Okay, good.
Yeah. It wasn't their fault. Have you seen their press releases? It's not their fault.
Okay.
Somebody hit them. The body flew under their car and they stopped on it. They're not responsible in any way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, certainly, yeah. Anyway, they've shut down.
Yeah.
They're so not responsible that they've shut things down for a while.
Any driver would say, you know what? I didn't cause the accident. I don't have to roll off this person. I'm just going to chill.
My bad. I'm sorry.
All right. Now, on Fridays, we like to feature news from the state that always serves up something a little off, shall we say, off-center, quirky, illegal.
Meth-laced?
Yeah, sometimes shocking. This is Friday, Fabulous Florida.
It's time for Friday, Fabulous Florida.
There is a gigantic alligator in my kitchen.
A look at the weirdest stories from our weirdest state.
We'll start with 40-year-old Sean Madden. Yeah, Palm Coast, Florida is where Sean found himself. And now cops had to take him in. He was exposing himself. There, I said it. And
I'd be willing to bet my lunch that there's alcohol involved.
2 points. First of all, he's kind of an attractive dude, 40 years old. And secondly, there was alcohol involved.
He looks happy.
Charges of exposure of sexual organs, assault on an officer, disorderly intoxication, alcohol, and resisting an officer without violence following a confrontation in a local neighborhood. He really ran the board.
Because he's really not a bad-looking fellow on the right there.
He's a good-looking dude, I think, yeah.
But, now he just becomes so unattractive,
Oh, really? Once you've seen his privates, you mean? Or you just because of the arrest?
Yeah, I mean,
well,
now
Kim hasn't seen the privates yet.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
Give him a chance, Kim.
So you're saying one arrest for indecent exposure and assault on an officer is going to disqualify him?
Out. You're out. That's
You're very tough, Kim.
Yeah. Did you say disorderly intoxication? Is there orderly intoxication?
Of course, yeah.
They found a shirtless man when the cops got there, acting in an aggressive manner, screaming and threatening to fight deputies. How much have you had to drink, a deputy could be heard asking him in the body cam. And he said, let's go. I'm swinging on everybody.
Oh, God.
The deputy's pretty cool down there. They've seen a lot.
Might work.
Yeah, they've
A drunken fight with police seems like a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
What's going on, bud? Can we talk about it? The deputy asked. Talk about what? He said. What did I effing do? He said. I ain't brandishing S. And then he dropped his pants. And
there's a reason that this place is fun.
Good luck to him. Good luck to him. A Florida man is facing charges for allegedly keeping this in his garage. If you guessed gator, you give yourself points.
Nice.
He's facing charges after authorities say that he had an alligator in an aquarium in his garage. Now, Florida Fish and Wildlife say that this 3.5-foot long alligator was in a 35-gallon aquarium tank in the garage. And Christopher Abelard said that the gator belonged to his dad, Mr. Abelard, who's 50 years old. Officers said they spoke to the older Abelard, and he said he picked the alligator up off the road while working on September 23rd, brought him home because he didn't want someone to run it over. And officers said, they also found 5 boa constrictors in the garage. So Abelard's story started to get a little shaky. He faces charges for unlawful sale, possession, and transporting of alligators, and another charge for possessing wildlife.
He also did say that he didn't want anybody to eat the alligator, so that's another reason why he was holding it to himself.
Oh, I see. Well,
yeah. Is that really a problem? Eating alligators?
Did you really just do that?
Did you really just do that?
The Beer Belly Wrestling Evading Arrest Obstacle Course. It's the first ever Florida Man Games that are coming soon. Literally, this is an obstacle course designed with Florida Man in mind. They call it the Florida Man Games.
Yeah.
It's a, Albert has a couple of, I think, artist conceptions of what it would look like. The events are as unexpected as the headlines that inspire them, say the promoters. The athletes are, let's just say, unconventionally talented. The game's founder said that the best way he can describe the upcoming event would be, quote, like if you had a fever and went to bed with Florida on your mind, this would be your fever dream minus the discomfort. Plus a ton of belly laughs. It's going to be unbelievable and extremely memorable.
I did everything right and they indicted me.
Okay, well, that was it. They did indict you in Florida, sir. But apart from that, there'll be no Trump-related business in the Florida games.
That's an interesting conception.
Yeah, it is.
Like, really, that's what you went for when you thought Florida games?
Yeah, I don't know.
My favorite part of this is that police officers will be involved. There's an obstacle course where they get to, run from the law, and the police are actually going to be there participating and chasing criminals.
Yeah.
What could go wrong?
Are they going to have a panel of judges? Maybe Grady could show up.
Oh, that's right. He would be great. Yeah.
What he's got going here is a situation.
Yeah.
We'll be right back.
Yeah. General admission tickets to the event are being sold. What do you think they're selling for? The general admission event to the Florida Man Games. If you guessed $45, you are a winner. Give yourself
pretty
points.
Cheap.
Yeah,
Is this
not
for
expensive.
Some charity event or something? What's the point of it?
Well, I think
What's
the point of it is
Florida?
To have fun and make money like everything else in Florida. Not a lot of charity, I don't think, in this one.
Oh.
What started out as a seemingly ordinary dinner date between a man and a woman, the woman that he had met on social media, unraveled into a throat-slashing robbery that escalated into the guy being thrown over a bridge.
Wow.
This is crazy.
What?
We've never seen anything like this.
Natalie where is...
There's never been anything like this.
Thank you, John. Natalie Fonseca and Nafis Reynolds arrested, charged with attempted murder, armed carjacking, armed robbery, and kidnapping. Boy, again, they really ran the table. It all started when a man met this woman on social media, agreed to have a dinner date, hang out with her. Deputies said that during their unorthodox date, the man went to her house where she introduced him to her, quote, uncle. It wasn't long after that the three of them ended up in a car together to, quote, take a ride to the man's house. When they were leaving, Fonseca and her, quote, uncle both hit the man several times, telling him he was going to die.
Oh.
That's a date from hell.
That's a picture from, yeah, I think there's no second date coming. That's the picture of her. The duo robbed the dude of his shoes. There he is, the guy. Rob, that's the guy booked. That's the uncle. That's not the that's not the date. The duo allegedly robbed a man of his shoes, phone, money, and car, then took turns cutting his throat, before they threw him over a bridge rail into the river, the Escambia River. They drove away in the man's car. Deputies found the car on US 98 West. It was allegedly set on fire. The man, however, survived the throat cutting and the fall from the bridge.
Wow.
Swam toward shore where he flagged down a deputy. Wow. I mean, there's never been anything.
There's never been anything like this.
I don't think so.
If that happened in the city, you would not be able to find a police officer. But in Florida, give it like 90 seconds.
Very well done, Florida. And
I wonder,
those.
I mean, it's an extra survival when you get chucked into a river in Florida because God knows what's in there.
That's
right?
true too. Yeah, and you've got
Gators.
open wounds with you're bleeding out from your neck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here come the gators.
A Florida man threatens officers after they tell his wife about a drunken pool incident. It happened in the Villages, everybody.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love the Villages. This week on the Villages.
Previously.
A Florida man's day at a community pool in the Villages took a drastic turn when he was arrested after drunkenly threatening to break a police officer's throat. According to the Wildwood Police Department, the threats escalated when the officer decided to inform the man's wife about the incident. There's a picture of the guy there. He is 64 years old. He was arrested and charged with simple assault. Those are your favorite assaults. After the situation that unfolded at the Villages around their community swimming pool. That's where everybody's supposed to just be kicking it and relaxing there in the Florida sun, and turned ugly. Officers showed up at the pool after people complained of a drunk person smoking in the pool area. That was the gentleman you're seeing there. According to onlookers, that guy became belligerent and took on the responding officers, yelled at them, yelled profanities at them, slurred his speech. He was clearly intoxicated. And during his drunk rage, the officer tried to get his name and date of birth, noticed his village ID, so he went to the unit where he was going to speak to the wife. And that really set the guy off. And he threatened to break his throat. The guy threatened the officer. You're going to break my throat, the officer asked. Yup, he said. The man also said he'd kill the officer and repeatedly asked the other officer to shoot him in the face. Guy's got some issues, I would say.
Although how embarrassing is it? You do all that work, right? And then they label it simple assault.
Yeah.
He's like, come on, man.
Nothing simple about it.
He's really, yeah. He's an underachiever. Yeah.
Yeah, loser.
Well, he continued to threaten officers as they drove away with him. That's, called them pieces of S for calling his wife about the incident. He was not happy, and so he continues in custody. A naked, drunk Florida man found passed out in a grassy intersection is awakened by a police officer, and when he's awakened, he punches the police officer for waking him up.
What?
It's Delray Beach. A naked 28-year-old found lying face down in the grass of an intersection. When the cop approached Edward Tuttle, who you see here, he's from Syracuse, New York. He's come to Florida to sleep in the street, and apparently he can't even do that in peace.
He has a dream. One day, I want to go to Florida.
Right. Well,
Again, not a bad-looking guy.
Idea, but it just might work.
Everybody's
Right?
chasing their own dream. Exactly, John. It happened at Northeast 2nd Street and Northeast 3rd Avenue, which you're familiar with, John, that area.
Of course.
To check on this dude, this cop comes over to him. The man was shaken awake. He slowly regained consciousness. He began to stand up and then, without warning, unprovoked, punched the Delray Beach cop in the nose. The naked and formerly unconscious face-down man was tasered.
Nice. While
While in handcuffs and still naked, he confessed to the fact I'm sorry, but that he was.
I'd be willing to bet my lunch that there's alcohol
You're
involved.
right. He confessed to the fact that he was drunk. And he was arrested, charged with disorderly intoxication, battery on a law enforcement officer, and he was chilling in Palm Beach County Jail as we checked on it. The Florida man who whacked the acquaintance with a hatchet during an argument over a spilled beer has found himself in the joint. Yeah, they were having an argument, and during the argument, I guess there was some spilled beer, and it got into a Danny Tharp, arrested and charged with attempted homicide. I mean, it went from kind of a verbal altercation to what happened is Tharp's nearby acquaintance accused him of spilling a beer.
Now, is he a model?
That sparked an argument.
No. That's a different kind of model.
And allegedly, I mean, according to police documents, Tharp grabbed a silver hatchet with a blue handle and started to swing it toward the man, striking him several times.
Who just has that laying around?
Well,
this guy?
If you need a hatchet, you know where to go. He's got one ready. The man was able to leave and seek help from deputies. The guy hit with a hatchet. And deputies, arrived and did find the hatchet and blue handle near the scene. And they were able to...
What can you tell us about the scene?
I can tell you there's a silver hatchet with a blue handle, Larry. He's in the joint.
He was wearing clothes, though, to his credit.
He was wearing clothes. You're right. No nudity involved. Florida man is busted after drugs camouflaged to resemble popular candies were found in his home. That's right.
Throw the book at him.
Deputies said they responded to a place. It's Highgate Road in Spring Hill. Are you familiar with that area, John?
Yeah.
It was under investigation for possible drug sale activity. And when the cops showed up, 23-year-old Tana Charlson opened the door. They were hit by the overwhelming smell of anyone?
Where are my weed smokers at?
Yeah, marijuana is the answer. That's exactly right.
I guess you can't smell meth. Yeah.
Yeah. Charleston told deputies
you can smell meth.
There was marijuana inside the residence, but that it's not a grow house. And then when he was gathering his items to leave the property, he picked up his car keys and what deputies said appeared to be a rolled marijuana joint. They detained him. Deputies found narcotics and paraphernalia inside the home packaged in a way to represent candy items that would be available at retail stores. The drugs they found were marijuana. You get no credit for guessing marijuana. 24 pounds of marijuana, 10 ounces of cocaine, 84 Xanax pills, 90 pounds of hash, and 2 guns, and a partridge in a pear tree.
I was going to say, beat me to it.
He was charged with trafficking cocaine, trafficking a controlled substance, possession of a firearm by a felon, possession of an ammo by a convicted felon, possession of marijuana, possession of a controlled substance, possession of paraphernalia, and a personal possession of a structure used to traffic controlled substances.
See, that's not a simple crime. This guy knows how to do it.
We call it possession for short.
Sayonara.
Can you imagine showing up to their house like trick or treat?
No, not those Kit Kat bars.
It's all there, black and white, clear as
It is
crystal.
pretty much once you open the door, you know what you're dealing with. We don't like to pick a favorite. It's like choosing between children. We love them all equally, but the bylaws of this program require that we choose a favorite. And so we offer you in the chat your chance to vote. What's in the chat, Albert? What are the choices?
We have just the groupings of nude Florida men who were arrested this week. We have our another appearance for the people in the villages, that guy in the villages, don't cry over spilt beer, and drug possession bingo. That's how I titled that one.
All right. So those three are, you've got, again, you can vote, kind of cover a part of the wheel. with all of the nude Florida stories and then the others that Albert has mentioned. I will again remind you of what you've just heard, just to help you pick a favorite. Please let us know in the chat in after hours. If you're watching in replay or listening in replay, please register your favorites. We like to kind of keep track of it. The drunk Florida man dropping his pants, yelling, "Where's my weapon?" while exposing himself to deputies. The Florida man facing charges for allegedly keeping a gator in his garage. The beer belly wrestling that's part of the obstacle course that involves evading arrest at first ever Florida Man Games, they're calling it. The Florida man who was survived the slashing of his throat and throwing him over a bridge by a date he mentioned he met on a social media site and her, quote, uncle. They, again, slashed his throat, stole his car, stole all his stuff, and threw him over a bridge, and he survived, and they're in prison. The Florida man threatening officers because they told his wife about his drunkenness by the pool there in the Villages. The naked drunk man found passed out in a grassy intersection, and then when he was awakened by the officer, he hit him in the face. Florida man whacks his acquaintance with a hatchet during an argument over spilled beer. And finally, the Florida man busted after his camouflaged drugs were discovered, camouflaged to resemble popular candies found in retail establishments. We can't, as I say, favor one over the other, and yet we need to choose a favorite. What's yours, John Daly?
I think the date where he flew off the bridge, because that's a story of survival. Like, that's a good
I think
Florida
that's a good
story.
point, John.
Fabulous producer, John Daly.
Yeah, all right. The survival story of the bad date. How about you, Kim?
I'm going for the Florida Man Games because I like that even Florida pokes fun at itself.
Kim, how are you?
Albert, what was your favorite?
I think the Florida Man Games could have been a little better, like actually doing Florida Man stuff, putting some like bath salts, drugs. And
Oh, yeah. Albert's disappointed.
Yeah.
Felt that...
It feels watered down.
Maybe next year.
Machete fights, those type of things.
Oh, machete? Sure, you could have fake machete or whatever. Yeah, some manager.
Fake.
Yeah.
Come on, Florida.
But I'm going with John here. The guy surviving, his neck getting slashed and being tossed off a bridge into. I'm guessing, I don't know what's infesting those waters, but I'm sure it's not
infested
good.
with something.
Yeah. So good on him for surviving. I wouldn't have put that story in if he died. That story was in there only because he survived.
Very well done.
Albert, thank you.
Very well done. I too, like the Florida guy who meets the woman on a dating app, ends up meeting her, quote, uncle, and before you know it, they're slashing his throat, stealing his car, stealing his phone, stealing his money, and throwing him over a bridge, and he survives to tell the story. I love it. What was leading in the chat?
Just the groupings of Florida men arrested.
So the Florida man arrested, all the Florida man arrests lead in the chat? All right. Let us know you're surviving the bridge, says the Lady Beatrice. Yeah. Man game, says Vilma. She likes those man games.
Kim likes the man games, too.
Yeah.
That's right, I do.
She wants to report there from the scene.
She's not a gal.
Reporting live for the Mark Thompson Show Network
what
from the
can you-
Florida
what can you
Man
tell
Games
us about
2023.
The man games are underway there. Hey, that's what I can tell you.
Pretty face, but could you take those clothes off?
Though that's Friday Fabulous Florida for today.
This has been Friday Fabulous Florida.
There is a gigantic alligator in my kitchen.
Y'all come back now here.
John, we will see you on the after party live.
Please
Looking
stop
forward to that.
interrupting, Mark.
Producer, John Daly.
What's that?
Please stop interrupting.
I'm
You have a chronic problem.
John, do it live today.
We'll do it live.
We'll do it live.
All right. See you guys then, both Kim and John there.
Have a
See
great
you later,
weekend.
John Daly. Thank
Bye.
you. Yeah. All right. Wow. That was exhausting, Albert. Well done.
That was a good one.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On Fridays, one of the great things that happens is the welcoming of these two guys to talk about a very busy week from the standpoint of the news. And politics has been more confusing and more confounding and frustrating than it has been in a long time. This guy is the former senior correspondent at ABC News, covered the White House for years. He's an award winner, and so glad he spends time with us on Fridays. How about it for Jim Avila, everyone?
Good morning.
Hello, sir.
How are you?
Very well. Better for seeing you. And This guy has forgotten more about politics than many of us will ever know. He is oftentimes seen on TYT and elsewhere. How about it for Michael Shure, everybody? Yeah. All right. Guys, there's so much going on, but I want to start with the selection of a leader, a speaker on the GOP side in the House of Representatives. Guy who kind of, on one level, has no name recognition really, but is known as a pretty hard right-winger. I mean, wouldn't you agree with that, Michael Shure?
Yeah, he's an ultra-conservative. He's a Christian religious conservative. He's a Southern conservative. He is somebody whose record on issues, social issues, is far, far to the right of both the country and the Congress. So it is somebody that you can see why the Freedom Caucus members, that conservative caucus within the House Republican Conference, why they support Mike Johnson and are happy that he's the speaker on issues. But the speaker's job is not necessarily always about where they stand on issues. It's how they're able to, herd the cats there. And that is a very difficult thing to do with Republicans now.
Jim, that's an interesting point Michael makes or reminds us about, which is that it's not necessarily his agenda that he's going to be riding herd over, is it?
Well, it's going to be difficult no matter what. I wonder how long he's going to last. I mean, his strength is that he's not known and that he appears non-threatening. But as soon as you lift the veil just a bit, it's all there. It's very ugly. It's very scary. This is a guy who believes he was brought to the speakership by God. And is going to put religion at the top of his agenda. He had a prayer right on the floor of the House. They all got in a circle and started to pray. They're ignoring what Thomas Jefferson said. Their supposed founder, these people that they supposedly look up to. Hello, I don't
know what that was.
Say Thomas Jefferson again. See what happens.
It's not here. Thomas Jefferson. There we go.
For those who are listening and not watching, as Jim's speaking, all of a sudden these balloons, like celebratory balloons, went up around him. I have no idea where that came from.
Some kind of effect. But at any rate, Thomas Jefferson said that church and state should be separated, and they ignore that. So he's dangerous to the Constitution. It is, while he seems to be, he's sort of this Clark Kent guy, right. And I really don't know how long he'll last. I'm not sure how long the moderates will let him be there, because he's threatening their elections. He's threatening their survival in 2024.
You're saying his extremism actually can have a chilling effect on their ability to win.
Yeah, extremism is not popular. The extremists lost in 2022 from the Pennsylvania governor's race and on down. In Georgia, they lost. So even in places where there are Republican strongholds, extremism is not, MAGA is not all that popular. We even see this morning, I don't know if you saw it, but there was a Donald Trump video of him calling on God, talking about God. Donald Trump, the multi-divorce prostitute buying human, is calling on God now because he sees what's happening in the Republican Party. It is a shame.
But God put him there. I mean, it was evangelical Christians who came around to him after the primaries in a very, we've talked about it here before, in a very effective way. They elected a president. They got 3 Supreme Court justices. So he knows who he has to dance for when it comes to elections. He did it in 2016, 2020, and he's going to do it again should he be. And it looks like he will be the nominee in 2024.
But it's laughable to independents, Michael. It is so.
No, I'm not defending it. I'm just saying that's why he does what he does. Right. It's laughable to independents, but it doesn't affect all independents, right? I mean, some independents are not wooed by it, some laugh at it, and some are not moved by it, and they look at what the issues are. And generally, we know that independents look at the economy more than anything, and that's where Democrats can have a difficult time. I've spoke to one and communicated with two other members of Congress, two Democrats and one Republican since this happened. And, to what Jim's saying, perfectly, one of the Democrats who the one I actually spoke to said it was like the College of Cardinals came up with a pope. That's what it felt like to him. When he saw what happened the other day. And that, popes wear out their welcome at a certain point or they die is what he said. And so it's, and that was tongue in cheek. But the point is that this is it was an exhausted conference that had somebody that people do like. People like Mike Johnson when you sit down and talk to him. He's in quotes, a good guy, but to many, he's a wolf in sheep's clothing. He is going to have a very, very difficult job. He may not last that long in this job, and the Republicans may not be able to maintain the majority. You already see a move this week to expel George Santos from Congress. Hard to see a Democrat losing that race on Long Island at this point. It was the Republican members of the New York delegation that called on that because they know they're all in Biden districts and they're endangered, all but one are. And so these sorts of things, more than anything, more than what Mike Johnson does right now, are going to impact the Congress, the balance of power. And Joe Biden is going to be sitting down. President Biden's going to be sitting down with a man who doesn't think he should be president, and that's going to be a difficult dance as well for Johnson and perhaps for the president. But it's always more difficult for the person who isn't the president.
And
that's the challenge, isn't it? Go ahead.
Have you noticed, gentlemen, that he has not spoken to the press except for to Hannity? He has gone to a microphone, but he answers no questions. He walks away. He won't answer questions because he knows he has to answer for what he did in 2016.
And he also hasn't had time, Jim. I mean, speakers, when you work on Capitol Hill and you're in the halls and you'll see a speaker go by, very often they will rush by with their cadre of security. But most often, and to McCarthy's credit, he stopped more than many of them do. They sit and they talk to a handful of reporters, a gaggle of reporters, a lot of reporters, and Johnson hasn't done that. Johnson didn't seek this job for very long. He has never been in leadership as we know leadership. He probably isn't accustomed to the press conference in the same way. Not an excuse for him, but if this endures, it's going to be a problem for him. I would guess that it's just a matter of he's taking.
Well, I don't think he wants to. I don't think he's figured out how to answer the question.
Right. I agree. That's what I'm saying. I think in time, he's going to face more microphones that are less friendly.
The prospect of this guy who you're talking about herding the cats that you also mentioned, Michael, and keeping the government open, handicap that for me, please.
Jim?
What do you think?
I think he's going to have trouble because the disruptors, the 8 disruptors, don't want the government to stay open. Donald Trump doesn't want the government to stay open. And they don't want to fund Ukraine, and they don't want to do some very important things that are again, if he pushes it through with help of the Democrats, which is what he'll need. If he uses the Democrats to get over the hump, then he's going to have the same problem that Kevin McCarthy did, and those 8 people are going to vote against him. So I think he's going to have real trouble. He'll have to find some kind of common ground, which he talked about in his speech, which all sounded great. Let's see if it happens.
He also, look, his job as speaker, it changes, right? So while he, as a philosophical conservative, would probably be with those 8 on a lot of the issues pertaining to the government shutdown. He's also the speaker. He also knows that he has to fundraise now. He's the most important fundraiser in the party, other than the presidential nominee, who raises money for himself, not for the party. He's got to fundraise on what he's able to do. And that's very different than having to win a congressional seat in Northwest Louisiana. So he's got to be able to say, this is what we accomplished, this is why we did this, and this is how we're going to operate going forward. Democrats want to keep the government open. They're not going to shut things down or change direction just because they want to keep the government open. They want what they want, and they're going to get it, and they have the White House. But that may be, there's going to have to be compromise, and Mike Johnson, the speaker, is going to be different than Mike Johnson. He has to be, and if he's not, then it's going to be a disaster.
I'll get to the Middle East and the politics of the Middle East in a second, but I want to go to this story that just broke, the last overnight, kind of late yesterday, and that is this addition to the presidential sweepstakes, this Dean Phillips. It's a presidential campaign from a Democrat taking on Joe Biden. Can you guys speak to that? Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, Dean Phillips is a sort of backbench member of Congress, and I think he has been looked at, because he flirted with this a while, as somebody who could safely express concerns that Democrats have about some of the polls in the swing states, and that he would be somebody who could appeal to progressives. He's going to have to, though, be a little bit more conservative than a progressive. He's going to be going after Biden, I would guess, in a way that is almost Republican, going after him on the economy, going after him on immigration, going after him on age. And that's not a place that many Democrats want to be, or that's not a Democrat that many Democrats want to associate with, for tribal reasons more than anything, but also I think decorum. And there are a lot of Democrats who still think that Biden will win regardless, that these numbers are not impactful today, that the Democrats have not spent their war chest yet on Joe Biden. And so I don't think, Dean Phillips there are other polls he has to worry about, and those are the polls that show that nobody in the world knows who Dean Phillips is.
Yeah, so much of it is name recognition. Jim, what about the vulnerability of Biden?
Well, look, I think, there is some vulnerability, but I think that he's getting better and better. The economy figures came out this week, strongest economy in a while, huge increase in the GDP, huge unemployment numbers are great. There needs to be more, and I think we're seeing a little bit of that with the UAW. There needs to be more better wages for workers, and I think that is a weakness, and that's maybe why, according to the New York Times, which there was an article in it today talking about why he's not doing well, and one of the reasons was because people aren't feeling it because their wages have not gone up. So that's the next step. But I think the economy is pretty damn good, and I think that for most people, even though they're not perhaps feeling it as much as they should, but gas prices are going down again. They may go up because of this war. That may be a problem. But, inflation is going down. So I think that he has plenty of things to campaign on. And I don't think this new guy in the race will ever win the presidency or beat Joe Biden. What he might do is amplify any weaknesses that Biden might have and encourage somebody else, a big name, to get in. But that's the only danger I see from him, is that if he somehow, Biden's not going to debate him. I guess he'll get on some primary some primary ballots, and if he shows any weakness there, then everybody will jump in. It's sort of like what happened to McCarthy back in 1968 when Robert Kennedy came in after he showed some weakness. That's the only thing that I think he might do.
Yeah, it's interesting, the history of these guys who come in, the Pat Buchanans of the world, the Edward Kennedys of the world,
But Edward Kennedy and Pat Buchanan, to even a greater extent than Dean Phillips, had impact within their flock. Democrats don't know who Dean Phillips is. So it's and not taking nothing away from him. He's a nice guy and a pretty junior member of Congress, but he's not the kind of person that galvanizes a movement, and nor is he the kind of person I think that facilitates. If there's a governor who wants to get into this presidential race, they're not going to get in it because Dean Phillips goes in there. I think he will disprove more than he proves, predictably, by getting in this race. I think that he will show that there is less resistance to Biden rather than more.
That's likely. I just want to push back a little bit, Michael, on that. If there's a protest vote, if there are enough Democrats who don't think that Biden is up to it, and there's an alternative on the ballot, and they go for this guy, that will show others that there's enough weakness for them to get in. That's the only thing.
That's when there's already been a ballot, right? I mean, those people have Bobby Kennedy Jr. to vote for too, if they want. And I'm not saying they won't vote for Dean Phillips, but there's a viability question, and those are the things that can't be determined until you have an election. They don't, So if a couple of results come in that show Dean Phillips getting 14 and 18%, and some, and some holes in the president's campaign, then yeah. But I think that I don't think it changes the equation very much. Maybe I'll be wrong, but
I think I agree with you. I think the only way that it would is if there's a protest vote.
Yeah.
In the chat, latest polls, the economy has Biden at 36%. Sorry, Jim, but you're not correct. On the economy,
Jim is correct. Excuse me, Andrew. Jim is right. These numbers, Andrew knows because he pays close attention to them. But when those we talked about amplifying, right? Jim said Dean Phillips has to amplify his message. You can't without a microphone. These numbers don't have a microphone. We have two wars going on. We have a manhunt going on, and these great for a manhunt for a killer of 18. And these economic numbers are drowned in the news. So people don't know that. The economy is doing better. And that's why I keep mentioning the amount of money that's going to be spent to make sure that every American at least hears it is going to change the equation. It's not like Andrew's absolutely wrong, but I think Jim is more right than he is wrong on that. I think that those are the things that will help a president.
Sure. The employment numbers, the GDP numbers. I think Andrew's point is, eggs and gas and mortgage rates. These are things that are real and that live alongside these other things. But as you say, Michael, I think what you're making quite clear is once the message really gets out, that will help perhaps buoy Biden.
And once they realize a president has very little to do with the price of gas or certainly a mortgage rate, I would argue that he's right about the eggs. It's easier to tie a president.
Yeah, but I don't know where he's shopping. Eggs where I buy them are $3 a dozen.
Yeah.
I mean, $6 a dozen is not happening anymore.
Yeah, I don't know where $7 eggs are happening. That is true.
That's not happening anymore. There was a brief period where it had to do with the bird flu.
But let's not forget that the cost of living is more important. I think that's what the eggs argument is. It's not just about eggs. It's about the cost of living for the average American is up now, and that is problematic with interest rates as high and gas particularly so high. So, but I in terms of the politics of it, there are ways to distance a president from the cost of gas and the cost and mortgage interest rates, especially when you have an economy coming back and you have a jobs market that is pristine. The problem becomes, what the eggs, the how much they are. It's about a lot of other things.
But sure, it's the line, the price of eggs. I mean, it's a generic line for a reason. What's that, Jim? Sorry,
it's disinformation. What he's doing is what the Republicans are doing. They're emphasizing $7 eggs when they don't exist anymore. The inflation issue has gone down, and that other stuff is disinformation. I'm sorry, he's wrong.
Well, but he first of all, he may be a Republican, and it doesn't matter. The point is there is a correct narrative about the cost of living over these past 5 years. It didn't start with Joe Biden. It's not directly tied to Joe Biden, but an opponent can tie it to Joe Biden in many ways. And all I'm saying is that once the Biden for president campaign starts, a lot of money is going to go into messaging, and that messaging does change the equation a little bit. If it's more expensive to live, it's more expensive to live, and things have an issue that a president would have to address. Campaign
guys, I can't let you. I know our time is short, but please.
The Florida people have much more fun in their segment than we do, Mark.
I know. I'm sorry it has to be so serious, but look to the very serious, which is what's happening in the Middle East and the ripple effects politically, and what to do. It's not just the pure politics of it. I mean, it's the very difficult questions as to what to do. Jim, give me some thoughts on what can reasonably be done.
Well, I'm afraid of what they're doing right now. This morning, again, I was watching the pictures of the destruction of Gaza, wholesale destruction of Gaza, is not the answer. And I worry about it a lot. I can barely watch, and I have to watch because of my job. I can barely watch what's happening to the innocent civilians in Gaza. I don't have the answer, but I don't think the Israelis have the answer now either. It's not a good response. It's not the way it should be. And while we all support Israel's right to defend itself, when you have about now 3,000 civilians dead in Gaza, when is it enough? And I believe it's enough.
This is a tough spot for the Israelis with hostages coming off of this slaughter. They know that Hamas is there operating in Gaza, yet they don't know exactly where they are. They know some of the positions, but they are embedded. It is legit to say they are embedded in civilian communities. But so that leaves them in a tough position. Michael, it also leaves in the U.S., staunch ally of Israel, in a tough position. I guess that's what I'm getting at with the politics of it as well. And with a world that increasingly, and this is the sad part, I'm seeing, the rise of anti-Semitism worldwide and on college campuses here in the U.S. And I mean, it's a scary time. And so I think that the ripple effects of all of this have been far more substantial than one could have anticipated.
Yeah, it's clear that Israel needs to evaluate its leadership, and I think that that while America is almost a blind ally to Israel, I think you're seeing a little bit of that blindness go away with the Biden approach to this, saying, even hinting, and which is something U.S. presidents don't do, which could be something to be critical of U.S. presidents, but hinting at this not being the right way to respond. Yes, did they have a right to respond? That was hideous what happened to them. It was their Pearl Harbor, their 9/11, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't have to be called anything than just a massacre of people. They do need to, whether or not people should think that it's anti-Semitic to criticize Israel. It is not. And you have to be able to separate the anti-Semitism from being able to criticize another government and the way that they're operating. And this clearly, in terms of a PR offensive, is not working. And I don't think as a military offensive, it's making any impact where it needs to make an impact. And that's the world stage and public opinion. And they need to underscore humanity if they're going to get any kind of sympathy from a world that just sees the destruction now.
Yeah, I kind of think if they want to send their commandos in and go into these tunnels and do their best to find the Hamas, it's more risky perhaps for them, but that makes more sense to me than this wholesale bombardment from the air that is supposedly targeted, but is obviously, from what we're seeing now, we're getting video now out of Gaza that is real. Where the hospitals are being hit and the places are being hit, where little kids, those pictures of little kids being brought out of the rubble, that's got to stop, and it's not helping Israel.
It is the thing. It's not helping Israel at all, and it's not enough to say, all right, everybody go to South Gaza because we're going to bomb the rest of it. That's not enough. Israel may think that's generous.
I would much rather see myself, and I know it's more dangerous and it means a wider war. I still would much rather see surgical strikes on Iran and on their nuclear power plants, their oil fields, I would rather see that, even if it causes a wider war.
I don't know, Jim. I mean, again, I'm not a military strategist, but just in the fragile geopolitics of it all, I think that really is asking for a wider war. I mean,
well, it's not going to piss off the Saudis. The Saudis don't care about Iran. It's not going to make them angry. What's happening now in Palestine, in Gaza, is making the Saudis very upset.
Right, but it awakens terrorism again in other parts of the world. It has a collateral effect that's going to be is why those things are reserved. I think Israel needs new leadership. I think they need to negotiate with Abbas and the Palestinians. They're not going to. Hamas does not want to see Israel exist. Does not acknowledge that they have a right to exist. I mean, Zionism has been turned into a curse word. All Zionism really means, it has one meaning, is Israel's right to exist.
Sure.
And I think that Israel does not sell it as well as they need to right now. And I think leadership is the only thing that a lot of people think would change that.
I think the whole situation also is made more frustrating by the fact that a lot of people are just walking into the movie now. They just don't know the history of the region. They don't know the subtleties. They don't know the religious factions. They're just aware of nothing. And yet they take these dogged positions on this, and it's just an absolute mess. And so that public opinion is swayed in ways that just are informed by utter ignorance.
Why can't Israel, with that in mind, Mark, why can't Israel just say at this point, okay, we won. We've taken out Hamas leaders, and our retribution is complete. Let's all step back. Let's take a breather here, a ceasefire. Let's deal with Netanyahu. Let's deal with Hamas's leaders and try to prop up some leader from the West Bank and do that and stop the wholesale killing that's going on in Gaza.
I think you see Michael Shure's first note, which is that Netanyahu is the problem there. I mean, maybe among others, but he's certainly not going to do that. That move is not in his playbook, is it, Michael?
Got to take care of him first.
Yeah.
He's divisive within his own country. It's not like there is blind support for this in Israel, and that's a note that gets lost as well.
Right. He barely won before this. I don't think if there was another election, he would win now at all. I mean, he has a lot to blame for what happened here, and I think Israelis know that as well as we do.
I think that's so well said. That's exactly right. I mean, the one thing that Israel was sold by Netanyahu was security, and clearly, it was not accurate. Wish we had more time, guys. Thank you. I'm sorry, it's such a bummer. The world's not a happy place right now, but we really appreciate.
I'm going to vote for Dean Phillips as the best scorer.
All right. Dean Phillips is the answer. Michael, Jim, thanks so much for joining us. See you next time. All right.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Let's do a newscast here, and Kim will bring us up to date on what's happening. I guess there is stuff going on in the Gaza region as well, so you'll bring us all of that, Kim. And Albert, are you cool with that? Then we'll have the Culture Blaster join after that.
Yeah, and then we're gonna get to the after party live at one
and change
whenever we're done. Whenever this is over.
Kim may have to bail, but we'll stay with Michael and the Culture Blaster and his stuff. And I think we're not way behind, but
we're good.
Yeah, we're okay. Thank you. All right, Kim's news.
Kim, how are you?
And smash the like button. I haven't reminded you.
Smash it with your iron rod.
I have to do that to remind you more. It's a good thing to hit us with the likes. It helps us it costs you nothing, and it helps us in the algorithms of YouTube. So thank you for that. Smash the like button. And if you haven't yet, check out our website, which takes you to our Patreon and PayPal. That's how we stay on the air. Frankly, without your ongoing support, we can't stay on the air. You can see the people on the show, staffers, and even stuff that goes on behind the scenes. They are, we'll be right with you, Michael Snyder. Just stay out in the green room. Michael, stay out in the green room, please.
Have a cup of Coachella Valley
coffee
and chill out.
Oh, my God. They're breathing down my neck here in the show. Jeez. I'll have somebody come out and get you, Michael.
Why are you yelling?
All right. If you want to support the show, it's themarkthompsonshow.com. And they're click-throughs to Patreon and PayPal. All right, Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report is sponsored by Coachella Valley Coffee. Here it is, Lewiston, Maine, and some new developments in the case here. An intense search still underway for this shooting suspect in Maine. CNN reports authorities found an apparent suicide note written by 40-year-old suspect Robert Card. Lewiston police believe the Army reservist killed 18 people and injured 13 more in shootings inside of a local bowling alley and a bar. And again, he still has not been found. Israeli forces are expanding ground operations in the Gaza Strip right now. This comes after multiple reports of explosions in Gaza City. Friday, the U.S. is insisting hostage negotiations will continue despite this impending ground invasion of Gaza by Israel. So they are still working to get these people free. United Auto Workers Union may be closer to reaching a deal with GM. CNBC reports talks are continuing today after very intense negotiations during the overnight hours. The deal would be based on the tentative contract reached earlier this week with Ford. Auto workers have been on strike since September 14th. And again, the strike keeps growing and growing as more workers are added. But now it looks like a deal may be close between the United Auto Workers Union and GM. There's some video showing the moment New York Democrat Jamal Bowman pulled the fire alarm during a critical House vote. Maybe not the best choice. The vote was to fund the government. Well, Bowman pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor charge for this incident yesterday. The video reveals Bowman removed 2 emergency warning signs before he pulled the fire alarm in the Cannon office building. That's contrary to his claim that this whole thing was unintentional. Donald Trump and 3 of his adult children will soon testify in Trump's New York civil fraud trial. Donald Trump Jr. expected to testify November 1st, followed by Eric and Ivanka, the former president, scheduled to testify November 6th. Trump and his sons are accused of fraudulently inflating their assets to get some more favorable loan terms. Trump, of course, is denying any and all wrongdoing. Nope, didn't do it, wasn't me. Halloween candy is not safe for your pets, but pumpkins are apparently. Veterinarians at Texas A&M say it's nutritious, it's low in calories, and rich in fiber. So it's fine to toss your dog a piece of pumpkin while you're carving the jack-o'-lantern, apparently, but don't give them too much. The vets say it could be upsetting to their tummies, so you don't want that. But, okay, maybe a little pumpkin here and there. It's going to be all right. Just a little bit. I don't know if you saw this story about trick-or-treat safety, but apparently parents, speaking of Halloween...
It's safer than ever now, to be sure. No, not so much.
What?
Yeah, okay.
You have to take steps to make sure your children are safe. So parents of young kids should avoid exposure to gruesome costumes or explicit home decorations, which can be traumatic. That according to the University of Kentucky Extension child development specialist. David Weisenhorn says little ghosts or ghouls older than 10 or 11 can walk up to the door by themselves, but candy seekers under the age of 12 should be with a parent.
And where was that? Where was that information? He's an educator, or that's a new research study, or what is he?
A child development specialist. His name is David Weisenhorn.
Of course, he works with Dr. Emil Schaffhoff. Yeah, of course, I'm familiar with him. Actually.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
And he's at the University of Kentucky.
Sure.
So under 12, you have to be with a parent. That's not how I roll. Oh my goodness, go get it. I'll be back here drinking wine.
Something bad happens, call someone.
Not the best.
That's what cell phones are for, kids.
Yeah. Weisenhorn suggests not allowing masks that restrict a child's ability to see and adding a clip-on or flashing light reflective strips to costumes that can be seen. I do that.
Are you going as something, Kim? You're going to be trick-or-treating?
I'm going as
all of Halloween. You're not going to be any kind of outfit? No?
You know what I have? I have a headband that has flower petals on it. I go as a flower.
Oh, that's terrific.
Yeah, there's never been anything like this.
Yes, the flower has never been chosen, I don't think.
I think I love flower.
We've never, we've
my backup but still slutty account.
Oh, are you going?
And I ended, unfortunately, with some sad news.
No.
Radio personality and Howard Stern's co-host Robin Quivers is revealing what it's like living with cancer. The 71-year-old who was first diagnosed with stage 3 endometrial cancer in 2012 is telling people that she was cancer-free for 3 years until it came back in 2016. She now has to go to immunotherapy infusions intermittently. She says she's feeling fine. She's still here. For the first time, though, Quivers is also exposing her bald head and the loss of hair from all the treatments that she has to undergo.
I mean, I thought you were going to say that she's, only has a very short time to live. I mean,
No. She's just talking about what it's like. It's hard, it's a hard to go through this.
Of course, no, it's incredibly difficult.
And so, I don't want to say I'm the Robin Quivers of the Mark Thompson show, but I think
that's a fair comparison. I do.
I have a kindred spirit with her, and so
yeah, she's not as strong in her. She doesn't put Howard down, and quite.
My bad. I'm sorry.
Kim, how are you?
I don't put you down.
No, I actually like it when you give me a hard time.
I have to give you a little bit of a hard time because otherwise it's just like we talked about earlier, the head gets a little big, so I have to keep you.
Well,
have to keep you on the feet firmly planted on the ground here.
I told you I didn't mind it. There's no need for me to mention my head getting big.
Is that right? Oh,
yeah. It's really outrageous.
I can personally thank Coachella Valley Coffee for supplying Mark Thompson with enough coffee to keep him okay and moving forward. Thank you, Coachella Valley Coffee.
It does take a lot. It takes a lot of coffee to keep me going, and I love their coffee.
Take a sip. Take a good long sip. They also have tea, and it's so good. So, CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Because you're an exclusive listener of the Mark Thompson Show, you get your 10% off. When you're at checkout, you just put Mark T in. It's all together, all one word. Mark T. Get your 10% off and enjoy your coffee.
Michael Snyder actually said something to me off the air the other day.
What?
About the Coachella Valley Coffee, and I said, "Well, why don't you say that on here?" So you know what What was it, Michael?
I'm going to jump the gun here on my segment and just say some of the Coachella Valley Coffee I've had at the behest and at the courtesy of Mark Thompson at the studio has been the best coffee I've ever tasted.
And there you go. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So I was saying, it's somebody, and Michael
Snyder agrees.
Yeah, well, yes. Michael, let's face it, he has made his office this coffee shop in San Francisco. So for him to then, embrace Coachella Valley Coffee, quite impressive, Michael Snyder. So,
I have stops along the way in Los Angeles and San Francisco where I get my fuel on a daily basis.
Sure.
And damn, I wish they had Coachella Valley Coffee at those locations because it truly is the best coffee I've ever tasted.
How about that? Anyway, you can get the 10% off at Coachella Valley Coffee. Try it. And there's so many different kinds of beans, and they're hand-roasted beans, and it's all fresh grow. That's why those beans are the best. You can always find, discounted beans. You can find cheaper beans, but they're not fresh grow. This is the first crop. It's really terrific. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Put in Mark T at checkout. You get 10% off. So, good stuff.
This is The Mark Thompson Show.
Mm-hmm.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Well, there is really so much to look forward to on a Friday. Before we get into Michael's segment, just thank everybody who's shown us support. Couldn't do the show without you. I say it, but it's really a key. And the people have, there is Winthrop with a super sticker for a couple of bucks. Thank you, Winthrop.
Big shout out.
Big shout out. And Candace.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Happy Friday, crew, with a 20. Thank you.
Big shout out.
Nice.
Big
Hi,
shout
Candace.
out to Candace. Really appreciate it. And Edward Lee. Albert, we need a March Madness Friday Fabulous Florida contest.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's not a bad idea. A little spin-off of Give Me a Break from the Drops.
Yeah,
Maybe
that's
do our
a
best
really
Florida stories.
good idea from Edward Lee.
Big shout out.
Albert, we may need to take a meeting on that.
I like it too. I like it, and it might be just enough time for us to just claim that we had that idea, starting from now, because we have a couple months before March. So
yeah, I like it. Edward Lee, thank you. That's a really clever idea. So good stuff, and it seems to get support in the chat as well. If you're just joining us, smash the like button. That's how we work it.
Iron rod.
Hit that thumbs up. Cost you nothing. Appreciate you being here. On Fridays, among the luminaries who visit us is this guy. He, when it comes to movies, music, anything funky. In fact, we have a picture I will show you off of his Instagram in a moment. He's the culture blaster across social media, and you can find his stuff in the Marina Times as well. The amazing one who comes and goes on a rainbow. How about it for Michael Snyder?
Trick or treat, everyone. It's Halloween.
It is.
That delightful nexus of mischief and costume parties that so many of us eagerly anticipate and love so much.
Nexus of Dingward.
It's creepy and it's spooky, mysterious and ooky. Thank you, Addams Family. Although October 31st is actually this coming Tuesday, the celebration is going to last from tonight until All Hallows Eve itself, then All Saints Day on November 1st, and then Day of the Dead on November 2nd, El Dia de los Muertos.
Oh,
great parades in San Francisco and Los Angeles for Day of the Dead. So a happy Halloween to all, wherever you are, and whatever you do, let's keep it Hallow-weird.
Well, before, and speaking of Hallow-weird, Albert, do you have the picture that we got off of his Instagram? The picture that Michael posted is of two artists. Are those artists? Who are those people?
Well, on the left is Barbara Lou, a terrific performance artist from San Francisco. And to the right is the great Gina Schock, drummer for the Go-Go's, an author, photographer, and now collaborating on these lovely kinetic glisse paintings that basically show the kinetic power of her drumming. And there was a show at Music Head Gallery in Los Angeles last night. And, I know both of these women for many, many years, and they are absolute talents and lovely people. And
that's what I'm talking about, though, fun. Kim. Look at those people. They're funky. They're cool. They're that, you know what I'm talking about. That is Michael Snyder's stream that he swims in.
Hey, come on, man.
No, it's true. You're super cool. I don't think it's a good thing. I'm saying I'm envious of your hipness.
We do what we can. You know, it's... dude, this reminds me, if you're driving this weekend, don't do much of the Halloween, okay? Just stay off the Halloween.
All right. Okay, go ahead,
No,
Michael.
I'm thinking of dressing up as what is now a middle-of-the-road Republican. Easy costume, white sheet and a hood. Just kidding.
Oh, I get what you mean.
By the way, is it ironic that a guy named Mike Johnson wants to control everybody's Johnsons, or is it me?
I see what you're doing, yes.
I don't know. So we want to talk about film and TV and music, and again, the great Gina Schock. Lovely to check in with her. We've known one another for a number of years, and she is an incredible talent, and that was a lot of fun. But we do have new movies, and let's kick things off with a film entitled The Holdovers. And, it doesn't sound auspicious particularly, but when I saw that the filmmaker was Alexander Payne, I was... Let me into this screening. His serio-comic movie Election, about an ambitious and conniving high school girl running for class president, with a young Reese Witherspoon as the girl and Matthew Broderick as the teacher who tries to stop her.
Brilliant movie.
Unscrupulous campaign. That's Alexander Payne.
Unscrupulous.
I saw that movie and I was bowled over about how clever and insightful it was on the subjects of human foibles, and how it landed scathing shots at certain inherent flaws in our political system at large. His other movies, particularly Citizen Ruth, About Schmidt, Sideways, The Descendants in Nebraska, no less astute, humane and witty. And now Payne has brought us what might be one of my favorite of his films, and certainly one of the better movies of the year to date, The Holdovers. Okay, we wanted to give you a little backstory because I want people to know Alexander Payne is a talent, and he oftentimes writes the scripts of the movies he directs. In this case, he didn't, but that doesn't make it any less wonderful. The year is 1970. It's late December and time for Christmas break at a New England prep school, as is sometimes the case. Not all the students are able to go home for the holidays. In this situation, 4 must stay behind, and one of the most mean-spirited and generally disliked teachers at the school, Professor Paul Hunnam, is tasked with watching the so-called holdovers. So along with Hunnam, the school's head cook Mary Lamb and a janitor are also staying on campus as a skeleton crew. So over the course of the break, a connection develops between Hunnam, Lamb, and one of the students, the smart but troubled Angus Tully, and the dynamic of that trio as it develops is a wonder to behold. Paul Giamatti is the curmudgeon Hunnam, who's the antithesis of a people person. Seriously.
Antithesis, yep.
Divine Joy Randolph, who many of you may know as the sarcastic detective on Only Murders in the Building, is the kindly but kind of closed-off Mary, whose son, a student at the school on their scholarship because she doesn't have a lot of money, has just lost his life in Vietnam. And Dominic Sessa, in his first movie, is Angus, a young man who's been emotionally damaged by family circumstances. I mean, awards season can't come too fast for the three of them, with Randolph particularly a shoe-in for Best Supporting Actress nominations. Everything about The Holdovers is on point and period perfect. The look, the soundtrack, the costumes, and the aspect ratio and graphics all say early 70s, but it's the script by David Hemmingson, the acting by the entire cast, which also, by the way, includes a delightful Carrie Preston, as well as Gillian Vigman and Tate Donovan, and Payne's assured direction that really make The Holdovers a lovely and moving experience. It may even turn out to be a new holiday perennial insofar as it's set in the Christmas season.
Perennial.
Despite its chilly 1970s setting, it is a timeless slice of humanity that I heartily encourage you to see. The Holdovers is in theaters this weekend.
Wow, you really liked it.
I did. I've seen a couple films in the past week or two, some of which won't be coming out for, days.
You're sitting on a couple of goodies.
I am, and this is one of the ones where I went, holy cow, I love this film. Let's change the rhythm here. It is Halloween, right? Okay. Based on an immensely popular video game, Five Nights at Freddy's is about various people being trapped and tormented and tortured in a shuttered, ramshackle, haunted Chuck E. Cheese pizza joint, or like a Chuck E. Cheese pizza joint, where the seemingly disabled audio animatronic robots are deadly killers with a nefarious agenda.
Nefarious.
I'm not sure how this figures into the video game, but the movie spends a lot of time with Josh Hutcherson's character. Josh Hutcherson was in The Hunger Games, and here he plays Mike, a newly hired security guard at the long-closed Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. And his guardianship of his spooky young sister Abby is at risk if he can't hold on to the job. So Mike and Abby are orphans, and can I get a boo-hoo? No, okay. Of course, Freddy the robot and his mechanical friends lurk in the dark confines of the restaurant when they're not playing awful 1980s rock hits. This is said in the 80s or 90s, It's a little unclear. And these songs pepper the soundtrack. If you didn't want to hear Talking in Your Sleep by the Romantics 3 times over the course of a horror film, please don't go to Five Nights at Freddy's.
Oh, I see. Well, they like Talking in Your Sleep by the Romantics.
They do, but there you go. Anyway.
I'm getting that you didn't like it.
I'm not a big fan.
Yeah.
Could there be a connection between Freddy's and a number of missing children in the area, including Mike's little brother, who preceded Abby in birth order? I give you 0 guesses about that, okay? Because you just don't need them. Hutcherson is game, as are Elizabeth Lale as cute local cop Vanessa, who seems to know a little too much about Freddy's, and a surprisingly shrewish Mary Stuart Masterson, former John Hughes teen movie tomboy cutie, is here as the vile Aunt Jane, who wants to boot Mike as Abby's guardian and take over herself and get those checks from the state. You know how that works.
I see. There's a caper.
Yeah. It's not poorly directed. By the way, we will point out
this is a live-action film?
It is indeed. All these people are humans except for the giant robot creatures who are probably powered by humans inside or, controls and stuff. Emma Tammy was the director of this thing, and I would say does an adequate job for sure. It plays out as you might expect, though. There are massive plot holes, a more than sketchy backstory, and we've already seen a Chuck E. Cheese of Doom horror movie 2 years ago, Willy's Wonderland, with Nicolas Cage grimacing and fighting off the deadly animatronics at a defunct family fun center while not uttering much more than a grunt along the way. So who would you rather see in combat against killer robots, Josh Hutcherson or Nick Cage? Right. I thought so. Anyway.
Well, it's been a couple of years since we fought them off in a Chuck E. Cheese type place, Michael. It might be time for a new generation to try fighting them off.
This is in theaters and streaming on Peacock.
Lukewarm is what I'm getting.
Yeah,
from
lukewarm. Peacock is a little more palatable as a way to watch this if you're interested. Five Nights at Freddy's. Wasn't crazy about it, as should be evident by my conversation here. On the other hand, we do have a horror recommendation for the weekend, one that's way more fun. Suitable Flesh is a tastier treat than Freddy's. It's a very over-the-top, and get ready, Mark, it's gory, but amusing take on 80s horror movies and erotic thrillers that features Heather Graham, the nubile actress, in all her still nubile, by the way, in her glory as Elizabeth Derby, who is a psychiatrist dealing with a young patient named Asa, who may suffer from multiple personality disorder. At least that's what Dr. Derby thinks, but the truth is way creepier and more delicious as occult shenanigans involving an evil, body-leaping creature from eons ago plague Elizabeth and might even enmesh her husband and her BFF fellow psych doctor. So it's set in the world of today. Cell phones become integral to the part. But Suitable Flesh is, in fact, based on a story by the master of horror himself, H.P. Lovecraft. In addition to Graham having a ball as Elizabeth, Judah Lewis is a trip as Asa. Bruce Davison is kind of haggard and freaky as Asa's ailing father. And Barbara Crampton, no stranger to this sort of movie, is a nice, even-keeled counterbalance to Graham's imperiled Elizabeth as her aforementioned colleague. Joe Lynch directed Suitable Flesh with tongue-in-cheek, I would guess, and the results are more than suitable for laughs and some skin-crawling creepiness. It is in theaters and streaming.
Streaming where?
Hither, thither, and yon. You know,
Okay.
I know I could direct you to Peacock for the other, but no.
Exactly. Google it and find it.
Google it.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah. Thank you for
aforementioned is a dingler.
I guess. Well, just quickly, I want to talk about Pain Hustlers, which is the latest movie to try to.
Yeah. Thank you, because I saw something on it and I want to ask you how it is.
Well, it's okay, but it's yet another movie about the opioid crisis in ways. It's about a pharmaceutical company dealing in powerful fentanyl, style drugs, and it's based on a true story, and it's about in this case, a single mom who's dealing with financial issues. She's done every manner of job in sales, and she's also been reduced to pole dancing when she meets a rep and an executive from a pharmaceutical company who says, maybe you should try selling drugs and
instead of your body,
legal drugs. And so she ends up having quite a knack for it. And the first half of it was really engaging, but things get a little off the rails as it goes on. I don't want to get into great depth, but you have Emily Blunt giving a typically terrific performance as Liza Drake, this blue-collar mom who takes on this gig at the pharmaceutical company. Her direct boss is played by Chris Evans. He's a sales rep at the company. And, of course, the big boss, who gets crazier and crazier as the movie goes on, is played by Andy Garcia. And these folks are just talented actors, and it's fun watching them, and it's an interesting story to a point. But we've seen a lot of stuff lately. True life stories about the opioid crisis in miniseries form and in films form. So I feel like this is plowing over some similar ground. Then again, it's on Netflix. If you have a Netflix subscription, Pain Hustlers is not a bad way to kill, 2 hours if you have the time and you don't want to watch Suitable Flesh this weekend or Five Nights at Freddy's.
Okay.
Anyway, it is in theaters at the moment, but it also started streaming on Netflix today. Suitable Flesh was more my cup of tea, but Pain Hustlers is another kind of horror, right? When you think about it.
Oh, yeah. And as you say, with those performances, those actors, that cast, it'd be worth checking out, maybe.
Let's talk about some TV shows, because we kind of gave them short shrift last week.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'm going to kick things off with Scavenger's Reign. I love animation. I work in animation. My writing partner, who Alan White, talented man, and a fellow animation aficionado, said, "You've got to watch this new show on Max," which is the former HBO Max. It's called Scavenger's Reign. It is a remarkably beautiful animated sci-fi series about a spaceship that runs into trouble in transit, forcing a handful of the passengers to eject to an uncharted planet below, where they encounter amazing, incredibly bizarre, otherworldly flora and fauna while trying to rescue themselves and their fellow crew members who are in stasis within the damaged but still orbiting transport.
Stasis.
So this has a very European look. It doesn't look like Asian anime style, actually. It reminded me a little of the comic book art in Metal Hurlant, which was rebranded as Heavy Metal Magazine here in America. It was an influential French science fiction magazine. They still might be publishing it, but whoever conceived of and designed the creatures and vegetation on the planet must have done their research. Because the imagined xenobiology is jaw-dropping and entirely plausible, and the character work is really good by the voice actors. A few who were somewhat familiar, like Aliyah Shawkat does the voice of one of the women, and Wunmu Musaka from Loki is the voice of one of the other humans that is on the planet trying to figure out how to reconnect with the people above and preserve themselves. It's on Max, Scavenger's Reign, high marks from me. And high marks from Alan as well. Just to
wow, yeah, both of you who know animation quite well.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, go ahead.
Bodies is based on a graphic novel. It's on Netflix, and it's an 8-episode thriller about detectives in 4 different time periods investigating the same murder in London. Same body, same spot, each decades apart. It's a time-twisty mystery that kept me engaged throughout. Stephen Graham, who you may remember playing Al Capone in Boardwalk Empire, and if you had the good fortune to see the dramatic look at the turbulent inner workings of an upscale UK restaurant on the brink, Boiling Point, he played the conflicted chef there. Here he plays this enigmatic character who may be the key to this strange situation times 4. Bodies, very cool on Netflix. And someone pointed out that I have yet to give props to the second season of Bosch Legacy, which is the sequel series to Bosch about the resourceful, cultured and wry LA detective Harry Bosch, played to a T by Titus Welliver. Bosch is kind of the heir to Raymond Chandler's Philip Marlowe character, brought into the modern world. In this case, Mimi Rogers co-stars as his former nemesis turned business partner. Bosch Legacy continues Welliver's hit streak. These shows are so much fun, and if you know anything about Los Angeles, it's a character in the program, and I give high marks to Bosch and Bosch Legacy.
Nemesis is a ding word, by the way.
Really?
Yes, and I... we'll quickly review some good stuff today, Michael Snyder. The Culture Blaster really liked The Holdovers. That's the Alexander Payne film, 70s vibe, great performances, and Michael, against a backdrop of terrific work on the part of Alexander Payne, thinks this, The Holdovers, might be his best.
What? Well, it's all pain, all gain. It's
all pain, all gain. Come on.
Anyway, no, I thought it was really pretty wonderful. It's recency bias.
Are you
Mark.
amending? Oh, I see. It's recency bias. All right, yeah. Five Nights at Freddy's. It takes place in a Chuck E. Cheese type pizza place. It's they're trapped there. It's evil. It's good. It's evil. It's good. But ultimately, tepid is the way I might summarize your review.
Give me a little clarity on your universe. Why is this happening? What's going on here? You don't get very much of that.
Weak backstory, flimsy premise, bunch of holes in it. Anyway, theaters and on Peacock.
Moments of fun.
Yeah, as I say, tepid, not awful, but tepid. Suitable flesh. He really liked it. Heather Graham and that crew that goes in that movie with Heather Graham. I forget who you mentioned.
It's not going to be for everybody. It's Barbara Crampton among them.
But it's kind of old schoolish slasher.
It's horror. It's a cult. There's a supernatural element, and it's actually based on a story by the great H.P. Lovecraft.
I'm excited about it, Michael. What
You're
can I
not going to watch it, Mark.
Pain Hustlers is the Emily Blunt, Chris Evans-led offering. It's on Netflix. It's yet another project that talks about opioids. And Andy Garcia is in it. Apparently, all those people I mentioned with great performances. Michael says, look, this soil has been tilled a bunch of times, but these performances are really good. And if you've got Netflix, it's a good way to spend a couple hours.
The first half of it is really very enjoyable and very worth your time. It kind of peters out in the middle. Gets a little.
We've got television for you. Scavenger's Reign, he says, is a beautiful animated sci-fi series. European look. He liked it. He not only liked it, he loved it.
I did, and I do. It's halfway through.
So that's on
Max.
Max, right. Bodies is the Netflix offering. It's an 8-episode thriller. The same murder, the same body, investigated through history, different time periods. It's very intriguing, and Michael really liked it.
Why are you yelling?
Yeah, please settle down, Mark.
Sorry, I'm swept up with enthusiasm.
Why are you yelling?
All right. And Bosch Legacy, he just feels is awesome. Continues in the awesomeness of that Bosch, Raymond Chandler-ish kind of character meets the modern age. Isn't that a fair summary, Michael Snyder?
True dat. Both the original Bosch series and Bosch Legacy are worth people's time, especially if you like that kind of hard-boiled film noirish, private eye kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Love it.
Private Eye.
Oh,
Los
no,
Angeles.
please, 49ers.
The air was
please,
heavy.
Please, 49ers, please win on Sunday. You've
What's
ruined the
sto-
past 2 weeks.
And the commish also, we were concerned about
Albert, thank you.
The fact that Brock Purdy was in the concussion protocol. What's the story, Michael?
My understanding is that he's been back at practice. I don't know if he's been fully cleared. I do know that from what I hear, Sam Darnold has taken a number of snaps, but Brock Purdy, I think, has been leading the first string. We'll see. We'll see.
You sure will.
They're going to have to put the hammer down on Sunday at Levi Stadium. Get this ship righted, 49ers.
Yeah.
Feels great, baby.
We do need to do something. All right. I will excuse the witness if there are no further questions. We appreciate you coming in, Michael. You can find him across social media as the Culture Blaster, in the Marina Times as Michael Snyder, and on Instagram as Mike the Knife 123. Did I get it all?
You got it.
How about that? It's not written anywhere.
No,
I just know it.
That's groovy, man.
Yeah, how about that? He comes and goes on a rainbow. Bye, Michael Snyder.
Happy Halloween, everybody.
Happy Halloween, my friend. Yeah. Love my Michael. And we
The Mark Thompson Show.
Kim's still here. She's so cool to hang out for a couple extra minutes, everybody. Come on. Yeah. Kim's warming up to the weekend with us. Kim is the mother of 2 children. And when you have children, Halloween becomes a centerpiece thing.
Yeah.
But she's already said she's going to kind of keep her foot on first base. She's not going to go out there with
They're getting
with
to
the
the
kids.
point. It's their thing.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
That's cool. And they might enjoy that. But you don't send them out like unchaperoned or whatever, do you?
The older one, I might. The
Oh, yeah.
younger
Julia's
one, no.
old enough to be
Yeah.
unchaperoned. Yeah.
She
There's
should
never
go out
been
and
anything
cause,
like
cause
this.
trouble. Yeah.
Yeah.
14 on Halloween,
Yeah, you're right. 14. Yeah. And soon she won't want to go out. That's soon she'll be. I'm not doing that anymore. Albert, what do we have to do? I did want to acknowledge someone. I saw a lovely contribution because we are crowdfunded. It's also important. Pinky, of course, $1 a day. What up, Pink?
Big shout out.
Mm-hmm. And also, I saw Pietro, $10. I usually listen in the afterplay, but today I wanted to do it live. Happy Friday to all. Big shout out to Pietro. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yes, a certain regal quality to the name Pietro, I might say. European. Yes. Taps into the sophistication of the Mark Thompson Show. The After Party Live is coming up, isn't it, Albert?
Right.
Do I have to do anything else besides segueing perfectly into the farewell and The world is not a happy place, everyone. I will grant you that. But we try to make certain moments happy. And that's probably all we can do in our lives and on this show. I really appreciate everybody turning out this week. It's been a wild week. In fact, I would say...
I have a busy week.
Yes, it was busy. There were a lot of guests through. We punched through some audience barriers that were really important, and we passed 15,000 subscribers this week, everyone, which may not sound like a lot. I mean, it sounds like a lot to me, but I'm just saying on our little show, it really makes a big difference. So smash the like button like a boss.
It with your iron rod.
Have a good weekend, and we'll be back here on Monday. The After Party Live is next with both Kim and John.
I'm Shadow Stevens for The Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
We'll do it live. I'll write it.
Go over there and show them some love.
Bye-bye.
Kim, love you. Albert, love you. Till Monday. Bye-bye.